Good morning. Welcome to our Expert Connections series. I'm Julie Holton. I'm the founder and principal strategist of mConnexions Marketing Agency. We started bringing you these interviews at the start of the pandemic as a way of connecting our community to resources like the two gentlemen you see here today. Joining us for mConnexions series, we have Chris Buck and Reuben Levinsohn. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Morning.
It's clearly a Friday. I'm having a hard time spitting the words out, so I'm glad I've got the two of you to help me along. I'm so glad that you guys are here this morning because, each day this week we featured different topics throughout our series. Yesterday, we had 3 attorneys from Foster Swift really talking through the complex details of everything legally related as we're going through this pandemic. Today, we're going to focus on business strategy and this whole concept here of we're kind of building the airplane while we're flying right now. Businesses are re-strategizing. We're figuring out what the heck we're supposed to do. We're in survival mode. And so both of you come from different backgrounds and have a lot of insights to share with our businesses, with our nonprofits, the organizations in our community. So both of you wear a number of hats, and I would like for each of you to do your own introductions. Chris, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. Yes. My name is Chris Buck. I'm currently the Senior Managing Director and Chief Operating Officer for Martin Commercial Properties in East Lansing. I did a 25-year stint climbing the ladder in corporate America, traveling across the country for various positions, and was a vice president for Michigan operations for about 10 years before I unplugged from that. Once I left that role, I started a small business consulting firm. I ran that for a number of years and did a couple of years in economic development for Meridian Township, just east of East Lansing, really trying to advocate for economic sustainability and vibrancy in mid-Michigan generally. So doing commercial real estate now, leading a team of experts that are out there trying to put great tenants into empty buildings. It still furthers that cause. So I host a podcast called Michigan Reimagined. You can find that at pretty much anywhere you look for podcasts, 15-minute series of interviews, not too dissimilar from this, where we just talk about people and organizations driving that sustainability and vibrancy for the state of Michigan. And then I host a couple of networking events in town and really just enjoy trying to drive the energy in mid-Michigan to make it a better place for us all to live in.
Chris, I'm so glad you could join us this morning. Thank you. Reuben, get a nice introduction from you. Tell us about you.
Yeah, Reuben Levinsohn, here in Lansing, Michigan also. And I'm an avid entrepreneur. I came right out of Michigan State, starting and selling and advising, launching companies. And I've done that ever since. About 15 years ago, started a financial advising, and I have a partner here, Washington Avenue Advisors in Reotown. And we handle wealth management, family planning, estate planning. And then we also have a company, Washington Avenue Ventures, where we partner with and we help fund seed stage companies. And most are local. We have a few we're working with right now that are local, and one that came out of Michigan State that's actually benefiting from all the craziness with COVID right now with online learning. And then Blue Owl Coffee is another one of our venture companies that we help launch and expand them to their 3 locations. So we're working with them very closely through their economic plan with everything right now too.
Absolutely. I mean, definitely a difficult time to be a startup. Certainly a difficult time to be a business of any size, depending on what your business does. Both of you have worked in consulting, as you said. So I want to start with that topic. So I'm going to ask you first, what is some advice that you have for businesses right now as we navigate through the pandemic?
Sure. Well, interestingly, it's advice that I gave to my small business consulting clients pre-pandemic. One of the flaws in the strategy of small business owners that I've seen that are pretty common is underutilizing their 5, what I call kind of their key business partners. They're paying for insurance, they have financial planning, CPA, attorneys, and bankers. I think every business owner has a relationship with all 5 of those service providers. But the depth of that relationship or the quality of the partnership, the bandwidth of the service provider usually is lacking. And so I always encourage small business owners to really look at who's providing them those services. And while they may have been the low-cost provider at a time when cash was short, or they started a relationship with their sister-in-law who did this and they wanted to throw some business their way when they were first starting up, but now years later they've outgrown their partner. I think it's critical to identify those partners and make sure they've got the right people doing the work for them, and then utilizing them to the best of their ability. As we navigate potential business interruption insurance claims, as you try to navigate the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, through the Small Business Association, and forgiveness, you're going through, whether it's accounting or your local banker, to get that stuff done. They're really meant to advocate for you. And right now, the chips are down. And if you don't have an absolute ninja in each of those roles, you could really be missing opportunity that could mean the sustainability of your company that you put so much equity into. So I think it's just such a treacherous time to navigate through this. And I've been grateful to have dialogues with small business owners during this time, giving my own advice just for free, just to kind of see how they're doing and make some suggestions. But then even professionally here at Martin Commercial and Property Management, we're the liaison between tenants and landlords. So as the rent relief requests come through, we've been able to work with both sides, making sure that they're as educated as they can be to the incentives that are out there and how to kind of navigate that. Certainly can't really do all of the work for them, but just to make them aware and maybe what strategy might work for them. And so we need to be experts, and we can relay that to them. And it seems to be working. We're grateful to hear that most of our tenants might come out of this relatively unscathed.
That's incredible. And Chris, one of the things that I commend you for, you mentioned providing some of your services and having these conversations for free. That's something that we're hearing a lot right now, and is really important for those of you watching to keep in mind that you're not going through this alone. There are people available to help in this situation, and especially knowing that people are really hurting financially. So don't hesitate to reach out to that team of advisors that you have, because now this is exactly what we have them for. Reuben, I want to ask you, what is some of the advice that you're talking through right now with your startups, with your small businesses? What are some things that others can really benefit from hearing right now?
Yeah, you can imagine. So as a business owner myself, and then being a financial advisor, primarily working with business owners, and then having a portfolio of startup businesses that we have funded and work with very closely, my worlds are all combined right now into all day, every day, working on helping business owners, whether it's survival plans or just getting very innovative and creative right now and thinking very different than they have in the past. Sometimes it's pivots, like major pivots in their business model, and reinventing themselves either for survival or new opportunities that we're seeing. And I think that's one of the really neat things about, working in young, nimble, early stage companies. It is kind of interesting to watch how they can pivot and capture opportunity faster than large companies that we've worked with. So a lot of it feels like consulting right now, and we're not charging any fees right now. Like Chris said, it's like this is not the time to charge fees. It's just the time to kind of gather all your people and help get us all through this. I think for all of us, and especially in this community, and how loyal and resilient this community is, I think we all know that if we're there to help each other, that'll all come back around to us when things are a little different. And I say different. I don't like to say things are ever going to be normal. Whatever normal is to people, I think it's more of a forward-looking normal than a backward-looking normal. I think things are going to be different in a lot of ways, but I'm actually kind of excited about a lot of that.
We had a guest earlier this week. She referred to them as our next normal. And I thought that was really a cool way of putting it, that it's just, especially because I think we're all sick of talking about the new normal. Yeah. So maybe it's just a different way of kind of saying the same thing. But yeah, absolutely. Reuben, I want to dig a little deeper because, I know that you're seeing, you said a lot of business, like we're in survival mode. And so we've seen a lot of really difficult things. We've seen a lot of things not working, like the old models not working, especially, we've got restaurants, retailers closed, major adjustments there. But you've also seen some success in trying new things. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so talking about Blue Owl Coffee a little bit, we consult with them and we're partners in that business. And so it started out complete survival mode. You know, day one was lay everybody off because we have to shut down. Then we quickly got our heads together and said, okay, we've got 3 locations. Let's keep a couple open, even if it's just to show the community that we're here and we're not going to shut down. And we refuse to shut down totally, being still in the essential services. So Blue Owl immediately went to a 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., just very condensed hours. They're usually 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., with the most hours of a coffee shop in the area, which we were proud of. But 9 to 1 worked out okay for a little while, and none of this was about trying to make money. This is just trying to skinny it down enough that we could still serve coffee and have people get their daily fix, their craft coffee. From there, you know, I will say, and it's concerning, the real survival is all the government subsidies. There's no way that a coffee shop like Blue Owl, on the margins they work on, could make it through this with the instant 85% decrease we saw in daily numbers. And that overnight, I mean, our East Lansing location, we see a 50% drop in the summer, and we barely survive that. But to see an 85% drop overnight in the daily numbers and have that start in March, and we already know in East Lansing that's going to carry into summer with the university, the students out, and we still don't know what fall looks like for Michigan State, and if we're going to have a long extended summer for that shop. That's really hard. So it's concerning, but I have to say honestly, the survival is the government subsidy money, and that now we're just assessing like how best to use that money and the forgiveness and navigate. I'm hearing that even maybe today, Chris, I don't know if you know, but we might hear something from the Senate today on changes they're making to the qualifications for forgiveness, maybe dropping it from 75% has to be spent on payroll to 60% on payroll, because they're realizing that the unemployment stimulus worked against getting people back to work, and there's a lot of flux. So we're just having to have a lot more meetings with our partners and our portfolio companies right now.
Right. Yeah. The only thing I've heard is that they may extend the period, you know, instead of 8 weeks, you know, they gave you 10 weeks worth of money to spend in 8 weeks. I've heard that they may extend that to be able to spend it in 8 weeks, but keep the parameters of what you can spend it on the same. But it's hard to say. You know.
Well, and the good news is they're making these changes fast. I like that I've never seen any governmental agency move so fast. I don't think anybody has. But
Right.
with the banks and the government moving so fast, that's good and it's necessary. But of course, with moving fast, I guess we got to give them a little grace. They keep making mistakes on the programs too, and the programs are working against each other. From what we're seeing in the small businesses, it's hard to even get all your people back. You don't need them back yet because we're still on such a limited customer base with the lockdown, and then a lot of them don't want to come back because they're making more on unemployment. So it's an interesting challenge.
Absolutely. And, you know, good time to just quickly mention, and we'll put the link in the comments for everyone. The Lansing Regional Chamber of Commerce put together a task force that created a resource guide. And we were just talking yesterday with Attorney Patricia Scott about this from Foster Swift. This has a number of resources and keeps up, it's an online document. So it's this living, breathing document that changes. So because this is a lot, you guys. I mean, we're, as business owners, we're good at running our business. That's our expertise. Keeping up with government changes and learning how to adjust during a pandemic. These are not normal hats that we wear that suddenly, you know, we're being forced to do. So again, Chris, this is where like that care team you've been talking about really comes into play, and making sure you have the right experts who are keeping up with each of these areas and helping to guide the decisions you're making based on these changes that are happening. Because at the end of the day, we all want as many businesses as possible. We want all of the businesses to get through this, to make it through this. And so it's coming up with the right plans, figuring out those strategies to make it happen. And there are a lot of resources in this community. We talk about Lansing being a resilient community, and being, you know, we were already right in the throes of this comeback, and there's a lot of excitement building for 2020 and all that this year we had hoped for this year. Chris, when you think about revitalization efforts in Lansing, how do you think this pandemic is going to impact that?
Honestly, time is going to tell, and I hate to cop out with that, but you think about all of the projects that are not only promised but really underway. I mean, Sparrow just completed the Herbert Herman Cancer Center. You got McLaren is knee deep in their hospital construction. You got the annex to the Capitol building. The Lake Trust building in downtown Lansing has been working on, a big mixed use project to my knowledge. So you got the Red Cedar project across from Frandor. Meridian Mall just had the high caliber karting and entertainment open. And then now they're doing another 20 to 30,000 square foot expansion. Those are just a handful of things that were in the throes. You got Pat and Scott Gillespie and two different companies doing amazing things along Michigan Avenue. So that energy definitely was there, and I think the pride and the investment, in the city and its suburbs has been unbelievable for the last 5 to 10 years. And I am concerned about what that's going to do. I think it's going to hurt for a little while. I think the incentive money that was available and investors that were available are going to dry up a little bit for the short term. I don't have really anything to back that up, but when you think about the feds and the state just printing cash to try to bail us out of what needs to be fixed today, you got to believe the other shoe is going to drop on the budget shortfalls from the state and what the trickles down to the MEDC, and then but I think about the partners, and I think about Michigan State University, and I think about LEAP, and I think about Michigan Works, and the Michigan Chamber and the Lansing Regional Chamber, and all of these groups. I just have an unbelievable, a co-working relationship. The senior players in each of these entities have really answered the call on making sure that we work together and don't compete, but work in concert to fan the flames of innovation and investment in our city. And I'm hopeful, like Reuben's optimism about coming out the other side of this, that maybe instead of Lansing catching up to maybe the vibrancy that we aspire to be, maybe we come out of this faster and more nimble than our competitive cities by collaborating and working together and finding a way to get things moving back on offense quicker than maybe some of our counterparts. So I'm very hopeful that the group of professionals that tend to focus on these things and then all the private investors will make it happen and make the comeback quicker.
Reuben, as an investor, from an investment standpoint, I mean, how are you feeling about, kind of same question back to you. I mean, how are you feeling about the revitalization efforts? And I know you're a part of, working with several startups. And of course, we're still, it's hard also. I want to recognize that we're still focusing on getting businesses through the pandemic, let alone like talking about what's going to come afterwards. But I think that this is still something that's so top of mind because there are a lot of people that are already in the middle of projects that now are just on hold. So Reuben, What do you think?
Yeah, I feel for small businesses that were in the throes of an expansion or were taking on capital or about to take on capital for a big project or an acquisition. Like I saw a lot of that come to a screeching halt, and including myself, people who I was in due diligence with and looking at making investments in myself. I went on halt because it's not that you don't have the money to do it, it's that you all of a sudden feel like you've got to preserve. And we're seeing that with angel investors, venture capital. It's a preservation mode because you're looking at your current companies and thinking, ooh, it's this quick realization that I'm going to need to probably stabilize my current companies I'm invested in and spend more time and money with them to get them through this before I can take on new projects. So that's me on a small basis scale. Imagine on a larger scale how much investment money just kind of halted for projects. And some of those projects Chris mentioned, I'm as a Lansing resident, East Lansing resident, I'm concerned for downtown East Lansing. They just went through major redevelopment. They're still in the middle of major redevelopment, and so you want to see those projects come through. We were all excited about new restaurants coming into town, and just hoping all that does come back. I don't think it's going to come back real quick or overnight. I think it's going to take a little time. But everybody's got to think different. I can give you a couple positive examples of, for instance, Blue Owl Coffee. We've helped them pivot a bit from just that retail B2C model to quickly thinking, well, how, if we can't get people coming in right now, how can we get coffee out? Because we still have a lot, we roast coffee and we've got to get it out. So we've been able to go directly to businesses, and I've been really impressed with local Lansing businesses that have jumped on board with this community coffee spotlight program, where they'll put $1,000 in, $500 of it goes out in free coffee to frontline medical workers, first responders that were working very hard during this time, and then the other 500 goes in a credit to the company for coffee to their office, for bringing craft coffee into their office for the employees. It's a neat benefit to the employees. So we're seeing a lot of support from the businesses coming out, and that's neat to see.
It's really been incredible to see. I mean, everything from the grassroots efforts, people making masks early on, providing, the much needed PPE when we couldn't get that personal protection equipment, to things like this, and seeing businesses that, especially I think, Reuben, this idea with Blue Owl Coffee, like here you're talking about a business that's in survival mode. They were expanding, all of these major plans that you all had, and then instead of just, I mean, I find it so fascinating that as a way of being part of survival, they're looking at how to also help others. I mean, this is like, they're not taking $1,000 and GoFundMe, or they're not, just accepting cash. It's okay, how do we also take this and pass it forward? How do we step up and help those who are the ones who are on the front lines, who are needing, the assistance right now? So just what an incredible opportunity. And we've seen that play out across our community in some really big ways.
Funny you say that, GoFundMe, because that was on the table with the partners there. We were seeing other coffee shops launching these GoFundMes right away. And it seems that coffee shops can use that kind of approach, but we just did not want to. We insisted we didn't want to do a GoFundMe approach. So that was actually what sprung out. Instead of a GoFundMe, how about we make it a three-pronged, help the community, help local business, help Blue Owl, and that's been working really well.
Yeah, really innovative idea. And let me just say, nothing wrong with GoFundMe. That's, the businesses that are doing that, it's a necessity right now. Survival mode. We do what it takes. And there have been, I saw a Chamber of Commerce, a small Chamber of Commerce launched a GoFundMe for their entire downtown area. And they've seen some great success in bringing in funds to support their businesses. So nothing wrong with GoFundMe. I just love highlighting some of these innovative ideas that are also helping other people at the same time. So really cool. I want to jump over to one of the comments and just invite you, those of you who are watching, to join the conversation. Feel free. Chris and Reuben, we've got their time. So take advantage of that. Ask them questions if you have it, or join in on the conversation. Seth brings up a really good point. Seth Barnhill says, particularly thinking of my industry, marketing and advertising, where our plans and efforts are affected by clients' strategies. Seems like a domino effect in every industry. I think that's a really great topic to talk about, Seth, because Chris and Reuben have given some really specific examples here in Greater Lansing, and I know, Seth, you're in the Metro Detroit area. It's not just the small businesses that are hurting. Of course, there are, whether it's marketing, whether it's other service providers, other vendors, there is a ripple effect that is going to impact, widely impact our entire economy. Chris or Reuben, any thoughts on that?
I guess I'm still trying to formulate exactly the question, but it is amazing to me when you talk about marketing and advertising, as you watch, if you're watching just television, every company has pivoted. And I mean, nobody's running an ad that they produced 6 months ago, right? Everyone's got new ads that are running that have some sort of coronavirus, or explaining how they're still offering services during the pandemic. So it seems like advertising agencies and video production people or whatever are probably busier than ever, because everyone's trying to update their messaging. And so whether it's web designers or the way people are trying to get their message out, it's not so much what we do. It's kind of we assume that you know what we do, but here's how we're doing it during this tough time and why we're in your corner, and you still need our services, and we're here for you when you need us. But yeah, the ripple effect is unbelievable.
And the biggest thing I would say to Seth's question, and something we're doing internally here, is just you have to, yes, your marketing advertising business is definitely going to be affected by the companies you work with, by the budgets, but becoming a leader in this time and consulting. Maybe it's more of a consultative approach where you're consulting them on why it's important to continue to brand and get their message out during a time like this. And again, it's just digging deep to be creative and innovative with marketing, branding. I know with Blue Owl, we doubled down on their social media with our graphic design and our marketing interns. We didn't slow down. We doubled down on that investment because we thought, well, if our numbers are down 85% overnight, we're going to have to fight to get them back to 50%. And you can't do that by slowing down on your marketing.
Right.
I'm glad both of you said that, because I would sound biased, but absolutely, completely agree. I mean, our teams at mConnexions, we've been busier than ever. And much like both of you said, a lot of this is in consulting and shifting of strategy. A lot of that we're doing for clients just free of charge. It's just part of the need of being able to keep these businesses open and keeping them, in survival mode. Reuben, I think adding on to what you've been doing with Blue Owl Coffee, one of the greatest success stories, that we have right now as far as survival. So success, of course, is relative, right? We're talking about survival success right now. But one of our clients in the wedding industry, I mean, they're a large venue. And weddings, of course, at any venues are on hold. You can't, have gatherings of more than a few people. So, and the future of that is, of course, very uncertain, because when we're going to be allowed to have gatherings of hundreds of people is anyone's guess. But they were able to pivot and through a huge marketing campaign, kept their kitchen open, but shifted to providing meals for first responders and taking on corporate dollars in order to turn that around. And so, again, a way of saying, okay, we can't really even keep our own, this has nothing to do with their business model. It has nothing to do with weddings, nothing to do with, except they have a kitchen, they make amazing food, and they can provide that as a resource to the community. So, and it's all about the messaging. That message became, this is no longer about Crystal Gardens Banquet Center and their need for people to care about them and their small business. It became about what they can do for the community. It's switching that messaging, which is why I think initially GoFundMe accounts, for example, I'm still kind of stuck on that mindset, but you're talking about that early on. Early on, that messaging of help our small businesses, help keep their doors open, pick up curbside. I think that resonated early on, 2 months ago, early on, but now here we are 2 months later, we're still not sure when, what our finances look like personally, or when we're going to get back into the office. All of these things are still up in the air. And so from a client perspective, from a consumer perspective, that messaging doesn't resonate as much anymore, because yes, I still care about the small business, but I'm preserving my own, personal financial capital. So, can I afford to go and spend? So that's when the messaging needs to be turned back around. It needs to be less about the small business and help our small businesses, and more about how are those businesses helping the community? How are they keeping the community going? What are they doing does that make sense? And we've been talking about that a lot with our clients, that, and what you were talking about even in the TV ads that you're seeing, that I'm sure Seth is a part of with his advertising agency. It's shifting the messages that we're in this together, and what we're doing to help you, whether it's as consumers or as a community. Speaking of which, Chris, I want to talk, at Martin Commercial Properties, real estate market, and talking about, obviously a direct impact for you, people working from home, commercial, office space. What are you seeing there? And what about locally owned merchants and restaurants?
Yeah, no kidding. Yes. So there's been a lot of chatter about this. There's been a lot of webinars nationally, internationally, target specific to different industry types for real estate. And, this is everyone's first coronavirus. So we don't have a playbook to really look at to see this happened back then. So it's probably going to happen again with some modifications. So, we have two major topics that have been asked. I think one is the office space. Now that everyone's been forced to work from home for 6 or 8 weeks, and we've proved that, a lot of companies are able to do that, do people abandon their office space to save money and just have people perpetually work from home? A lot of the industry leaders that I've heard from, you can find people that'll talk on either side of this topic, but most, I would say, that kind of split the uprights are saying, that it's going to be a little bit of a give and take, and that it may end up becoming a net zero. So, for example, just to make very round numbers work, if you had 30 employees in a 3,000 square foot facility, right, an office space, an office suite of 3,000 square feet with 30 employees, that's about 100 square feet per person. You may learn that you need to do two things. One is we need to social distance these employees, right? So instead of having 100 square feet per people, the way we have maybe cubicles facing each other, or people that are right now are kind of stacked on top of each other to make an efficient, shared workspace kind of a feel, all of a sudden that's now, medically insensitive. So we need to spread people out. Well, maybe these two departments can work from home. So 10 of those 30 people work from home, and we reconfigure the 3,000 square feet to give the 20 people that are going to stay in the office more space. So now you have 150 square feet per person. So you keep the same square footage, have some people working from home, and reconfigure the people that are going to stay in office, but just have them working a little further away from each other. So that's one idea. But I think it's also going to boil down to industry specific, right? I think that certain industries are going to say it makes sense maybe not to do that expansion. So we're going to just have people work from home and kind of maybe ramp up our employee base, but reconfigure and have the additional employees. Some of them come on site, some of them work from home. So we don't have to have the capital outlay to purchase a new building or create another suite for these employees that we're going to hire to work out of, and modify their plan. So that's what we're hearing from the office side at this point, but proof's going to be in the pudding once everyone gets back to it and people have a lease expire, whether they make a decision to pivot and get a different office style. As far as the merchants and the retail and restaurants, like I said earlier in this conversation, it seems like my optimism on more and more a higher percentage of these small businesses surviving this, assuming that we can, open up, maybe more quickly moving forward. I'm not going to even throw my hat in the ring on my belief as to where we should be at this point, but I think, if April, May, and June were the real challenging months, and things get more back to normal, and the Blue Owls get to do more of their normal business and start to repair the damage that's been done, I think we're going to find that a decent amount of people are going to survive this. But I'm also smart enough to know that when you play out the percentages, there's going to be a lot of unexpected vacancies, right? So I think we're going to realize that, once everything gets turned back on and industries are allowed to reopen, we're going to find out what companies or small businesses are not going to reopen from a real estate standpoint, providing an occupancy in a strip mall or a freestanding building or whatever, in which case all of those properties are going to be listed. Supply is going to be high. Demand is going to be down. Prices are probably going to come down from a rental rate standpoint. But absolutely, without question, occupiers are going to start coming back into the equation, whether they're opportunistic people that know that the rents are low and they're going to take a chance and jump in early while it's cheap, or just people are going to get back to normal, or people in corporate America are going to decide during this hiatus that they want to start that small business that they've always wanted to start. So new people are
next.
Yeah. So more people.
Direction.
Yeah. So I think there's going to be occupiers are going to come back in a second wave, find really good deals. There's going to be a lot of supply in the market, and they're going to start filling these spaces back up, and we'll hopefully get our occupancy back to, normal. The biggest X factor in that is the timing. I think all of that circumstance is going to happen. It's just a matter of whether it's a handful of months or whether it takes us a year and a half for the occupiers to come back. And so landlords are going to feel the pinch, not only from a rental rate, but an occupancy, percentage. And, as a company, we're certainly there to try to help get them whole as quickly as we can. But, the odds are, against us from getting through that quickly, but we'll see.
We have a question I'm gonna pop up onto the screen here. At least part of it's going to fit. This is from Chaz Carrillo. Chaz says, do you think that COVID-19 offers the opportunity for cooperation and innovation in how the region of Lansing can be built up? Specifically, more ideas accepted and supported by municipals and city officials. How can the Lansing area seize this opportunity?
I'm all for Chaz is asking. I definitely am hoping it happens. I'd like to hear, Chris, you've maybe got a little bit more involvement on that side.
Yeah, I mean, from my economic development days and working very closely with local governments, I think that there already has begun an evolution, and every municipality is different, right? So I'm not going to stick a label on the region as a whole because we have so many local forms of government here. But I think, any kind of red tape, I think hopefully can be lifted. I think, we need to make sure that traffic is considered, the environment is considered, and just the safety and welfare of our residents. I mean, that's always going to be there. But as far as some of the minutia that sometimes takes front and center when it comes to approving a project, speeding up the timeline, knowing that, hey, it's like, wow, we've got this investor or this company that wants to come in and occupy this space, and they need to go through wetland delineation and site plan review and mixed use plan unit development procedures and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully, there's going to be some sort of an empathy and a sense of urgency in that that's a gift, right? That as we come out of this pandemic and, landlords are taking it on the chin and we have vacancies all over the place. And when we have an opportunity to welcome a new business, regardless of what municipality they land in, I'm hopeful that the elected officials are going to say, you know what, now isn't the time, to sit and nitpick and really second guess and scrutinize all the nuance and the detail. We have an opportunity to strike. Let's get these people through the funnel. Let's preserve the most important things in our mission statement or the master plan for our, city or township, and get them through and thank them for coming to the table as one of the early people coming back to occupy. So,
and at the very least, what Chaz is asking, I would hope to see some of the process for getting things approved just move faster, like private sector moves. Like if they could take some cues from federal government that has been able to move fast, just even if they keep the same regulations and borders in place, but move faster for local business.
yeah, I agree.
And we have seen a lot of collaboration that I again, hopeful will continue past this, but a lot of collaboration between various chambers of commerce, in addition to some of the more localized or regional business associations. So all of these groups, like South Lansing, Rio Town, working in collaboration with one another on regular calls, regular meetings, sharing resources. Certainly a way that if that collaboration, and they've been collaborating in the past, but maybe perhaps not quite on this level of organized collaboration. So perhaps if things like that continue, Chris and Reuben, exactly what you're talking about, we could see move forward. If you have any more questions, jump in. My last question for both of you is looking ahead. Of course, we've never, Chris, you said this, we've never gone through a pandemic before. This is the first for all of us. Everyone has their opinions and their guesses and based on, various, past histories and facts and backgrounds. But, I get the sense from both of you that this is a time where some innovative ideas are really coming to the forefront, and that perhaps, again, we don't want to undermine what businesses are going through because we're all feeling it. But looking ahead to what next steps look like and what maybe could come out of this, I'd love to hear your thoughts on maybe some kind of positive ideas of where this could take us.
You were starting, Chris?
Go ahead, jump in.
It's probably the hardest question that you've asked us so far, Julie, because it's the one that we're all eager to see what happens and we don't know. And I think waiting with optimism right now on some of that to see what happens. And then I'm starting to find it interesting to read news on the cities and the states that are reopening. I was up in Traverse City last week, and they opened, whatever that means, on Friday. They reopened, and they're kind of testing the waters. But boy, they're going through some interesting stuff just in their reopening with people are not ready, it seems, to come in and congregate and sit in restaurants. Everybody's looking for outdoor seating. Of course, it's nice that we're coming into some nicer weather. I heard the funny one where there was a bunch of complaints at local bars that if we're required to wear masks, how are we supposed to drink our beer? Yeah, never thought about that. Are they going to put a hole in the mask for that? I don't know. But there's so many things that we have no idea, and we're all just, I guess we all have, that's the resilience factor. We all have to stay open to these changes. and adapt a bit. And I think that the general sentiment in the consumer is we're going to have to be patient with businesses, and we're going to have to be supportive, because businesses are going to be going through a lot of change and trying to survive this after they start to reopen. The reopening, I think it's going to take another 90 days after the reopening for us to see which businesses survive this and found a way to get creative with all the change.
Yeah. And a lot of the webinars that I've been on for various types of commercial real estate, there's some discussion about, over the last maybe 5 years or so, we've seen kind of Uber pickup lanes, right? Places, in either shopping centers or on general thoroughfares where people can pull over cleanly like a taxi. And now with the Uber and Lyft model, that there's going to be maybe a similar, pivot in some of the building construction or retrofitting where people can actually do more drive-through. There was a graphic that I saw for a pharmacy and a grocery store where you actually kind of through the center of the building, kind of like Shipt or any of these other grocery delivery services, where you can do your ordering online, but then you drive into a queue like a drive-through at a coffee shop. But you kind of show up and you've got your order number. Somehow it's done through an app. You pop your trunk, people with masks and gloves or whatever, put your groceries in your trunk, and you drive right through the building and out the other side and keep going. I mean, do hardware stores go that way? Grocery stores, pharmacies, restaurants. I mean, any place that you would normally park and walk inside to do your shopping, do these brick and mortar locations retrofit to be able to do in mass, you order online, have internal staff bundle it all up, and you pull up in your vehicle and they just load it into your trunk or your hatchback or your pickup truck, and you don't get out of your car.
Well, a lot of us introverts don't mind that. We don't have to talk to anybody. You can definitely see the separation of extroverts and introverts during times like this. The ones that are having the hardest time with it need that social interaction, and then some people are like, I'll wear a mask and I don't have to talk to anybody.
That is the truth, isn't it? And of course, we've seen so many. I mean, look at the recession in 2008 and the businesses that were born out of that and the technology that was born from that. I mean, the recession birthed companies like Uber and Airbnb, and so I get excited. I certainly don't have those innovative ideas. I'm not the big dreamer, so I'm just excited to see what other people come up with. Whether it's a drive, I mean, the drive-throughs, Chris, those sound really interesting. I'm extroverted, but I wouldn't mind not getting out of my car to get my shopping done. So
speaking of that, Chris, you could comment on this. I had an entrepreneur approach me recently for investment in a new, well, I don't know if it's a new concept, but it's new here. It's already happening out west, but they're taking these old abandoned mall parking lots, which are, think about all over the country, mall parking lots were already looking emptier because of Amazon and things. But they're taking these abandoned parking lots and bringing back, the idea is bring back the old drive-in movie theaters in these mall parking lots. $10 a car, you pull up, you don't have to get out, it's social distancing in a way, and maybe somebody with a mask and gloves is bringing your popcorn to the window. But I thought that could be interesting to see that come back and that kind of get people out again.
It's a great point. I've heard a little chatter about drive-in movie theaters. I haven't heard that partnership with the mall, but hey, never say never. I mean, believe me.
The Meridian Mall's got the new farmers market going in permanently out there. That's really neat to see that use of the empty parking lot for stuff like that. That's great.
Yep. Yeah, they were slowed down a little bit, but they're back at full steam and hoping to be done towards the end of this summer. So yeah, there's all kinds of innovation going on. The new normal. It's going to be curious to see, which businesses really step up and thrive and adjust, and which ones kind of try to go back to business as usual and get out hustled by people that are kind of delivering the service the way that the new consumer wants. Same consumer, but with different sensitivities.
Right.
Chris and Reuben, thank you so much for joining me this morning. This has just been a really interesting conversation. I know we've got a lot of comments thanking you for sharing your insights. So both of you, thank you for joining us on Expert Connections.
Thanks for having us.
All right, that does it for us. So anyone looking for, we've interviewed at this point probably about 50 experts. We did roundtable style interviews this week. We've done a number of one-on-one interviews. You can find all of those resources from our experts. You can watch the videos on our website, mConnexions.com. We'll see you next time.